The day in our society. It begins the moment in time when the sun is opposite to high noon, and that is sun god worship. Our society counts 12 a.m. through sunrise, sunrise through noon, noon through sundown, and sundown through 12 a.m. as a day. The day in Scriptures. The day in Scriptures begins at the moment the sun goes down below the horizon. Let's look at Genesis chapter 1 verse 5. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning, one day. And Elohim called the firmament heaven, and there was evening and morning a second day. And there was evening and morning a third day. And there was evening and morning a fourth day. And there was evening and morning a fifth day. And Elohim saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. Now let's go to the second half of Ephesians 4:26. Let not the sun go down on your anger. Or, in other words, don't start a new day mad. So according to Scriptures, sundown through 12 a.m., 12 a.m. through sunrise, sunrise through noon, noon through sundown is what makes a whole day. So now let's contrast our society with the biblical accounting of time. Our society is on average 6 hours late by the Creator's clock. Have you ever had to be someplace at a certain time? Have you ever arrived at an airport 6 hours late? Ah, what bride does not know when the wedding is? But no one can know. Who said? The enemy, who wants you blinded. The week in our society. This one has more or less been undefiled. The week in Scriptures begins at the moment the sun goes below the horizon, Saturday p.m. Let's look at Genesis chapter 2 verse 2. And on the sixth day Elohim finished his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. Exodus 20 verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it set apart. Exodus 31:12 through 18. And Yehovah spoke unto Moshe, saying, Speak you also unto the children of Israel, saying, Truly you shall keep my Sabbaths, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am Yehovah who sanctifies you. You shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is set apart unto you. Every one that profanes it shall surely be put to death, for whosoever does any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days shall work be done, but on the seventh day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, set apart unto Yehovah. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. Therefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations, for a perpetual covenant. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days Yehovah made the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day he ceased from the work and rested. And he gave unto Moshe, when he had made an end of speaking with him upon Mount Sinai, the 2 tablets of the testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of Elohim. Take a look at verses 13 and 16. Throughout your generations is listed twice, and for a perpetual covenant. Now look in verses 13 and 17. It is a sign, and it is a sign forever. The word sign in the last slide has the same meaning as mark, as in mark of the beast. There are only 2, Yehovah's and the beast's. Now let's look at Matthew 24 verse 20. And pray you that your flight not be in the winter, neither on the Sabbath. Clearly, Yeshua expected us to still be keeping the Sabbath. He said we would have 1150 days' notice to flee, but more on that later. Let's look at Acts 13:14. Now they, Paul and Barnabas, departed from Perga and came to Antioch, a city of Pisidia. And they entered the synagogue on the Sabbath day and sat down. Paul kept the Sabbath. Now let's go to Hebrews 4:4. Saying in another place of the seventh day thus, And Elohim rested on the seventh day from all his work. So we have the week set up with first day through the sixth day, and then the Sabbath day. The month in our society. It begins at a random place. The first 8 months are named after pagan deities. Now let's look at the month in scriptures. Begins at the moment the sun goes down, and the first sliver of the new moon is sighted. Genesis 1:14. And Elohim said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, Moedim, and for days and for years. Numbers 10:10. Also in the day of your gladness, and in your appointed seasons, Moedim, and in your new moons, you shall blow with the trumpets over your burnt offerings, and over your sacrifices and your peace offerings. And they shall be unto you for a memorial before Elohim. I am Yahovah, your Elohim. I want to emphasize here new moons, which is the same word as new months. Numbers 28 verse 14. And their drink offerings shall be half a hin of wine for a bullock, and the third part of a hin for a ram, and the fourth part of a hin for a lamb. This is the burnt offering of every new moon throughout the months of the year. New moon and months, there again. We are to know the times. Says Leslie Koppelman Ross in Celebrate the Complete Jewish Holiday Handbook. The importance of community of Jewish life is dictated that all celebrate the holidays at the same time. That meant that a standard start of a new month had to be known by everyone so they could count the days before the festival in unison. At the time of the first temple, the high priest made the determination based on the moon's first appearance in the sky. During the time of the second temple, 2 eyewitnesses would verify before the Sanhedrin rabbinical court that they had seen the crescent sliver. That's from page 25. And famed educator and calendar expert Arthur Spire tells us, in the early times of our history, the beginnings of the month were determined by direct observation of the new moon. Then those beginnings of the month, Rosh Chodesh, were sanctified and announced by the Sanhedrin, the Supreme Court in Jerusalem, after 2 credible witnesses had testified that they had seen the new crescent after their testimony had been thoroughly examined, confirmed by calculation, and duly accepted. The Comprehensive Hebrew Calendar, page 1. The year in our society is at a random place near the winter solstice, 1 orbit around our sun. That is sun god worship. The year, according to the scriptures, begins at the moment the sun goes down below the horizon, and the first sliver of the new moon is sighted, and the barley is aviv, which means the grain is in the head. Exodus 12 verse 2. This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year unto you. Exodus 40 verses 2 and 17. On the first day of the month you shall rear up the tabernacle of the tent of meeting. And it came to pass in the first month, in the second year, on the first day of the month, that the tabernacle was reared up. Leviticus 23 verse 5. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at dusk, is Yahovah's Pesach. So here we have the month of Aviv, the first month. We're going to start numbering right here on the 5th day. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. There, everything's numbered. This is what it looked like in 2010. Aviv 1 began on the 5th day. And 27 CE and 1321 BCE, approximately. Aviv 10, the Lamb selection from Exodus 12 verse 3. Speak you unto all the assembly of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take unto them every man a lamb according to their father's house, a lamb for a household. And if the household be too little for a lamb, then he and his neighbor next unto his house take one, according to the number of souls, according to every man's eating, and you shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it from the sheep or from the goats. So here on the 10th day we have the lamb selected and inspected. Aviv 14, the lamb slain, from Exodus 12 verse 6. And you shall keep it unto the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly at dusk. And they shall take the blood and put it on the 2 side posts and on the lintels, upon the house wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire, and unleavened bread with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden with water, but roast with fire its head with its legs, with its inwards thereof. And you shall let nothing of it remain until morning, but that which remains of it until morning you shall burn with fire. And thus you shall eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is Yehovah's Pesach. For I go through the land of Egypt in that night, and I will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. Against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments. I am Yehovah. And the blood shall be unto you for a token upon the house where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. There shall be no plague be upon you to destroy you, when I smite the land of Egypt. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to Yehovah throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by ordinance forever. Pesach themes: blood, blood that brings atonement, Yehovah's redemption, deliverance, demonstration of Yehovah's power, and death. Here on the calendar, on the evening of the 14th, we have the lamb slain at dusk.